In working with my clients to resolve trauma or to address dysfunctional, ineffective emotional states or ways of being, I rely heavily on beliefs reconstruction, which I address in a separate video, but also internal family systems and Jungian shadow work. In this video, I'm going to touch briefly on the latter two. From the Jungian perspective, the psyche of the person might be thought of as being divided into two parts: the persona or the mask, our socially acceptable version of ourselves that helps us navigate the environment. It's a mask that we wear to hide and conceal the unacceptable parts, our shadow. The shadow embodies those traits, emotions, or impulses that we subconsciously or consciously reject or ignore. Those aspects that either aren't acceptable to ourselves and or that we believe are not acceptable to others. From the perspective of the therapeutic modality of internal family systems, IFS, we have the wounded part of the self buried deep in our subconscious that holds the pain of past trauma, but also a whole internal family tree of parts, hence internal family systems, that protect the wound inflicted upon us. What Jung referred to as the inner child and IFS refers to as the exiled part. So we have these overtly negative parts, and I air quote that for a reason. The ones that manifest as negative emotions like anger, anxiety, depression, and or negative behavioral states like binge drinking or procrastination. So we have these parts also that on the surface look positive, but are inherently negative, such as the people pleaser. Both these positive and negative parts are inherently protective. Their role, very simply, is to protect the inner child from feeling pain or being further harmed. The negative emotions like anger, rage, anxiety, depression, or the negative behavioral states, again, like procrastination, emotional avoidance, and even traits associated with ADD, like inattentiveness, they are adaptations. They are cultivated as ways of coping with an environment that was stressful, difficult, challenging, or traumatic. And while adaptive and at one time very effective and very necessary, they are in our present circumstances, in our new environment with new people, dysfunctional, ineffective, problematic, chaos causing, and even positive aspects of our persona may be inherently negative because they are more about protection and less about who we authentically are. The people pleaser appeases others, attends to others' needs because that's how they derive a sense of self-worth, but at the expense of themselves. Someone who is suppressing a lot of anger and pain from child abuse may force a happy persona in Jungian terms, happy part in IFS. And I have personally, as a therapist, witnessed more than once the client that would smile broadly and even radiantly while recounting a horrible incident of child abuse. And this happy persona, the part that smiles through the pain, invalidates, dismisses, ignores the pain so she doesn't have to feel it. And the client may defend this part, may want to keep this part. The problem is that fixed, incongruous smile belies the fact that the pain is, in fact, still very much alive underneath. Otherwise, she herself would recognize that the smile just doesn't make sense. So, and this protective act of invalidation does further injury as it is an act of self-abandonment. And when we abandon ourselves, discard ourselves, we send the message to ourselves that we are not worthy of love, respect, kindness, joy, peace. From a Jungian perspective, parts might be viewed and understood as aspects of our shadow: rage, insecurity, intolerance, greed, jealousy, and the parts of the persona that suppress or conceal them, conceal the aspects of the shadow. The courteous Boy Scout that conceals antisocial tendencies, the virtuous that harbors dark thoughts. the good boy, good girl that suppresses that part that is bad or believes that they are bad, if only for being physically or sexually abused. The unworthy who derives worth by being a caregiver. The homophobic part that suppresses one's homosexuality. The party girl that lacks confidence in her true self. So, in addressing dysfunctional, maladaptive, or ineffective emotional states or ways of being, both Jungian theory and IFS have as their goals healing the wounds of the inner child and living authentically. Having fully acknowledged, accepted, and healthfully integrating the parts of ourselves that we deny, becoming psychologically whole. The inner wound having been healed, the protective parts can be deactivated. The protective ways of being, drunk, high, angry, self servient, self deprecating, anxious, and yes, even depressed. These states of, and ways of being, which once served purpose, which were once needed for self defense and self protection, but are now dysfunctional, causing havoc in our lives. In IFS terms, the goal is to be self led versus parts led. Carl Jung most famously said, once you make the unconscious conscious, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.